Castlevania Episode 1 Witchbottle. Now, honestly, I had no idea this was coming out today. Like, I just got off work, probably like about half an hour ago. I watched the episode, I'm doing the review. But I got off work, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's currently like 3:30 in the morning. And so I get off at about 2. I get home, take me like 10 minutes or so. I get on Twitter to look at some random stuff, and on the side I see like, hashtag Castlevania Netflix. And I was like, oh, there must be like a new trailer out, because I thought for sure that this was coming out like towards the end of the year. I thought it was like somewhere around Halloween. For some reason, I had the idea in my head that it was coming out in November. I don't know why, but I just had this idea like it's coming out in November. So I thought we were getting like an official release date. There was a new trailer or something. I hadn't been keeping up with it because, like I said, I thought for sure I was not coming out for like months and months. And then I start, I read some of the tweets, and it's like, oh, this was cool and that was cool. And someone was just like, watch the whole season. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll be watching this. I also saw that it was only 4 episodes from one of the tweets I read. I was like, oh, well, great. I could easily get through it and hopefully have a good time with it. And I definitely had a great time with this first episode. With it being 4 episodes, that's actually why I'm doing a review for every single one, because normally I just do like a full season review, but it's only 4 episodes, so I'm like, well, that's not that big of a deal compared to, things like 12 for, some episodes a season. It's just like, here you go. It could have just been a movie if they wanted it to be, which would have been really awesome as well. But I love this first episode. It starts off with this woman, Lisa, and she ends up going to Dracula's castle. It was like, hey, people consider me a witch, every once in a while, because it's, way, way back in the day. And it's like, I just want to help people with science. I don't want to, let people just die off. I want to actually help them. And, she goes to Dracula and she's like, hey, with what you have and what you know, you can make mankind better. You can help us live. And, that's what she wants to do. She wants to actually help people. And she's pretty much exhausted every resource that she has. And so the legend is like, this man in the castle can help her go kind of beyond that. And that's what he does. And they also end up getting married. And unfortunately, between them getting married and her actually helping people and Dracula living as just a normal human, between that time frame, we have basically like the cardinal and stuff. They consider Lisa to be a witch, and I knew that was gonna happen. Like, as soon as they did that time skip, I was just like, oh, I'm guessing she's dead. They went to her on the stake, like, yep, and she's dying. So I wasn't surprised that happened. Immediately, I of course wanted Dracula to end up saving her, and it was weird because I actually don't play. I'm not like a big fan of the Castlevania franchise. I've honestly only played like demos of the games, or maybe played like the old ones for a little bit because I actually like have the first one. But I've never really been like huge into the franchise. It's just always been like, I might see a game here and there and be like, I'm sure that would be fun to play. But they've never really drawn me in that much. It's just one of those big franchises where I recognize it instantly when I see it, but I've never really gone through and like, enjoyed it for myself. It's just like, yeah, I know it, and I pretty much know the story too because it's such a classic franchise. But I've never really been that deep into it. And this was awesome. I was like, man, if it was like this all the time, then maybe I'll start picking it up, because this was great just off the top. And it was like, wow, I really want to play more Castlevania games where we play as Dracula, because I know they have those 2 games. I think they're called like Shadow of something. It was like Castlevania Shadow of something. But I played like the demo for one of those, and that was really awesome. Like, playing as Dracula was actually really entertaining, and like I loved that. I thought it was really awesome. But I was like, I don't recall him ever bursting into like a pyre of flames and forming like, his face in fire, and it was just nuts. Like, and he could apparently just do that whenever he wants. Like, he was technically there, I guess, because he shows up like and it creates the fire, and then the same thing a year later when he shows up as like the clouds. So I guess technically his essence was there and stuff like that, but he can become, that point he's Dracula, so he can become all the bats and all that stuff. But I was like, man, that looks freaking amazing. Like, it just looked cool the first time he did it, and he's like, you guys have 1 year. And it was nuts. I was like, okay, I know it's, people are like, this person's a witch and burn them and this and that. But there's got to be somewhere, something in there where it's like, we should probably go. Like, it's the devil, But they were like, check it out. Like, they're having a celebration and everything. That was the first thing I thought too. They showed the year, and it's like a festival. I was like, what in the world is happening here? Like, what are they doing? And of course, he comes out, like, basically the Pope, the Cardinal, and so he comes out, he's like, see, it's just been a little over a year, and what's happened? Nothing, because the devil's a liar, God is awesome, see, we're good people, no big deal. And he's holding his hands on that little drop of blood hits, and I was like, well, It's about to happen. Because I thought it was going to happen for sure when she was at the stake. I thought he was going to show up and actually, kill those people. Because I was like, if he shows up right now and who we find out is his wife, is burning at the stake, he is going to like rip through these people like it's nothing. And I thought he was going to in the beginning, which would have been cool because it's one of those stories where it makes you kind of side with Dracula. At least for this first episode it does, because it's like, it's just back in the day, like all those people really sucked. It was like either they're just like everything's super holy, so anything that's not what we deem holy enough is witch based, and so we kill you. Or it was probably something super racist because it was back in the day. So you never know. It's just all bad and people being dumb. So I was like, you definitely just side with Dracula for this first episode, and he comes back. He's like, I gave you guys a year. And what do you do with it? You celebrate basically the anniversary of killing my wife. And it was like, all right, well, that's pretty much it. I gave you guys your chance, and you screwed up. You stuck around for whatever reason. I guess they were just really, really confident in God, and not at all scared. I mean, they burned a woman at the stake, but they were just like, whatever, giant flaming face and stuff, no biggie, we'll just stay in town. Like, that blows my mind. But that's what they chose to do. And so, of course, he drops his little gross little fetus demons, and then eventually they grow in the blood, and all the windows start popping open, and they drop out, and it got super intense. And I noticed this before that scene happened, but when the Cardinal was talking, I was like, man, this kind of reminds me of the Dead Space anime. If you watch, I'm trying to remember the name, it's like, I think it's Dead Space Downfall and then Dead Space Aftermath. And those are anime based, and those are really good, and they get like insanely visceral and stuff. And I was like, oh, it kind of looks like that a little bit. I don't think it's the same company that does the animation, but it kind of reminded me a lot of that. Like, it has, of course, the anime style, but it's also like slightly different, and I feel like they're very similar. So it could be the same company. I have to check. But I was like, oh, it kind of makes me think of Dead Space. And then when the demons came in, and they're just like, especially that first part where it just like slashes that lady, and it like, it almost like took parts out of her body, because like her face wasn't cut open, but her eye and her mouth was like kind of ripped, but her eye was completely gone, but it wasn't like she was completely slashed. So she just wiped out, and then it's just like they like slice people like straight open, and they show like the woman who had the boy, they just show like a boy's dead body on the ground, and you see people down. I was like, this really looks like Dead Space, because people were just getting ripped open, and the dude was like hiding in the house, and they just shooting fireballs, and it blows up the whole house. It was like, that guy's toast. And they're just like swiping people. They have like the wide shot where it's like two people. I think it was a woman and a young girl this time. And the demon was just like boom, and just like bashed them both against the walls. Like, they're both dead. That's just gone. Just slicing dudes' heads off and crap. And I was like, this is insane. Like, this is intense. And that wasn't even Dracula doing it himself. It probably would have been way too fast, and you wouldn't see anything, because he would have just been like, everyone's gone now. But it was intense, and I was like, wow, this is kind of freaking nuts. And so after he wipes out like this grand city, it's like, all right, go and spread out to all the outlying cities as well, all the little villages, and just kill all of them off. He names a couple, so it's kind of left ambiguous at the very end. When they go to like the part with the pub, and the guys are talking, and the dude runs in, like, I think they'll pass over us and stuff like that. I highly doubt it. He only referenced specific places, but I'm sure they'll just wipe out like any human beings they come across. But of course, we get to the end of this episode, and so we have the two guys who are brothers, but the one guy considers them cousins because they have the same dad, but like not the same mom. So he was talking about like the families. He was like, who gives a crap about that city being destroyed in the other cities, because they're run by like the big families. So you have Dracula himself, who is a part, basically like the lone person of one of the grand families. Then you have the people in the city. And then he mentioned another city, and then the fourth family, of course, with the Belmonts, which is who we have sitting at the bar as well. So I thought that was really cool. And of course, that's kind of like right where it ends, where it's like we see all the chaos, and we get to kind of understand Dracula in terms of this version of the story. Because it's always, I feel like in the games, at least, like I said, I don't actually play them, so you guys would have to tell me. But it definitely switches up. And once again, like with it being such a big franchise, I know kind of how it plays out, where it's like the first game is like, sure, that makes sense. And then some of the other games, I don't remember if it was, I don't think it was actually the second one, but I know one of the games, it was like the Belmonts were the douchebags, because it was like they literally put him together just to kill him. Like Dracula, they got the pieces together just to kill him at the end. So it was like, yeah, there are definitely parts where the Belmonts are the douchebags, but it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see. There's only 3 episodes, so it's not like they're gonna have that much to be like who's good and who's bad. I think it'll be fairly definitive at least by like the 3rd episode. But they might keep it right down the middle, which I think would be interesting to see. Where it's like you side with this guy, but at the same time he starts to take it really far because he's Dracula and he has this ultimate immense power where he can wipe out all of these people. It makes sense, that specific village. But he's like, it's all of mankind. That's where it goes. It's like she was the last little symbol of light for anything that was useful about humanity, and then they burned her at the stake for being a scientist, and that was it because it wasn't godly enough for them. She was a witch. So, very interesting way to do that, and I'm excited. I'm excited for this next episode. I'm assuming, focus on the Belmonts, and considering where it is, I would assume it would start with basically the first game. We'll have Simon Belmont, but I really don't know. I would assume it's him just because he's the first, so it makes sense to have him as the character in the actual anime. But I don't know. We'll have to just wait and see. And then, of course, with how the series actually plays out, it makes me curious if he's going to defeat him by the end or if he'll maybe die. Like I said, I don't really know the actual full franchise, so I don't know exactly how it plays out with Dracula being defeated and then, like I said, being brought back by the family and then killed by them again. So I don't know how they'll kind of incorporate the stories of all these different games into especially just this 4-episode first season, but definitely looking forward to it. I thought this was a great first episode. The animation is phenomenal. They got a lot of big name voice actors too. When it showed the credits during the opening sequence, which is also really great. I love that the visuals for that opening sequence, especially when it goes through it's moving and it's almost like oil paintings moving and stuff. I love that part. That's my favorite part of the actual opening sequence. But man, it was just really good. I really love that. And like I said, they had a lot of big name actors that I recognize. I can't think of their faces, but I read a bunch of names and I was like, I know a lot of these names as kind of big name actors. So I thought that was very interesting, but I'm very excited to get into these next couple of episodes. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this first episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And of course, with this being based off of one of the biggest gaming franchises, I would love to know how you guys felt it compares to the games. Of course, it's only the first episode, and all we see really is Dracula until the very end. We get one of the Belmonts. But of course, I would still love to know what you guys thought about the way they introduced Dracula and him being married and why he decides to take vengeance and stuff like that. If that's from one of the games, please let me know, because I'm not that well versed in that franchise. If this was Resident Evil, I wish they were actually doing that Resident Evil thing. But if this was Resident Evil Netflix, I'd be like, okay, I know this, and this. But it's Castlevania, so I'm not that familiar with it. So I would love to know your insight and what you guys would like to see as well from, there's been a million different Castlevania games. So I would love to know what, bits and pieces you guys would like to see from some of your favorite games and favorite, story elements that have been taken, or that you want to see taken from all the games that we've had. Because this could just follow the story of the first game, plus, a little bit extra stuff with him being married and, things like that. So it could incorporate multiple elements, and it could just basically be the first game. But I don't think it'll be that way, because most of the games is most of the games are like I said, but most of the games are you travel, through the city and all that stuff, and then you go to the castle to fight. I don't know if it'll be that way with this. It could easily be that way, by the end. But it's I don't know. It seems like, Dracula's rampage, and then, the Belmonts are kind of just involved in it in passing, and then it's alright, well, that's how we get that clash. I don't think it'll be the same way of traveling to the castle. That'll probably still happen by the last episode. Alright, I'll just meet him at the castle. And there was a character that's introduced in this first episode that I'm not familiar with at all, an assistant of Dracula. So I'm sure that's, once again, probably from one of the mini games that are out there. I just had no idea who that character was, so that might get explained, it might not. You guys probably already know if you're big into the franchise, but all in all, I just want to know what you guys thought about this first episode, and of course what theories you guys have and what you guys want to see brought in, from, the vast majority of games that are within this franchise for, really these next 3 episodes. I cannot believe it's only 4 episodes long. That's insane to me. I don't think there's anything else on Netflix that's just 4 episodes. It's so weird, but that's how they chose to do it. It's also weird that they chose to do it that way. We'll make 4 episodes, but it's that might as well have just been a cool, epic 2-hour movie. But I'm totally fine with it, with the way they set it up. But we'll love to know what you guys want to see, what theories you guys have for what we will see, and of course what you guys thought about this first episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and of course, thanks for watching.